Welcome to the last of the Call High Wildcats 1982 podcast, brought to you by Dietz Man Productions.
And you go to college and you're on this all-star team. And so I would tell myself that really don't listen to that voice inside your head that tells you you're not good enough. And probably the other thing I would tell myself is get more sleep.
Not everyone's going to like you, but try to make them want you. Still working on that one.
People say, oh, I'm not going to have kids yet because it's not the right time. Or I'm not going to get married yet because it's not the right time. Well, if you keep moving the goalposts in life, it's never going to be the right time. So enjoy your life.
Do what you love for a living. Figure out a way to make that work. Don't do something because it's what you're supposed to do or because it's going to be the most fun. You do something that makes you happy.
Take going to Landers for lunch, sitting around Jeff Blair's Mustang 2, and listening to his tape of Fleetwood Wall.
Hey, this is Scott Townsend. Welcome back to the last of the Call High Wildcats 1982 podcast. And today I have with me the guy with the coolest name in the world, Keith Richards. Keith, how's it going?
Hey, I'm doing fine, Scott. Good to be here.
It's good to have you. So, Keith, you work at J.B. Hunt. You're over there in Arkansas. You're the pastor of Faith Southern Baptist Church. Is that right?
Right. Yes, sir.
And so, it's good to catch up with you here and see what's been going on in your world.
Yeah, it's great to see you. Good to catch up. I've really been enjoying listening to the podcast. I was just telling you that I haven't seen the YouTube video, so I need to go back so I can see what people look like too. But I just think, wow, this has been just to have this chance to listen to people's stories and what's been going on, I think is a tremendous way to catch up with people. So very excited.
There are some people who haven't changed at all. And I think you're going to fall into that category. You look, you don't look, how old are you? 57, 58?
Just turned 58. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what clean living does for you, huh?
Yeah, well, whatever. so
that's great. So what have you been up to the last 39 years? What's going on in Keith Richards' world?
Oh my goodness. Well, I guess I can kind of try to give you the I think y'all call it the bird's eye view of 39 years, right? So
starting right after high school.
Well, as you remember, I was actually going to room with you at OSU was the original plan, and then it deviated from that, and I ended up I visited with John Hensley at Oklahoma Baptist, and was like, I need to go here. So went there. I had already felt like maybe God was calling me to ministry. So, and I love music, so I started majoring in church music. Got my degree in that, became a minister of music and youth for the next 15 years, basically. And I met my wife. I think John mentioned this in his podcast that he had put an application in at a church in Florida, and then he just took a different one. So he sent them my name. So I ended up taking a trip down to Florida. This had been in 1987, and went down there and became the minister of music and youth there at a church in Northwest Florida. And that's where I met my wife. She was just fresh out of the youth group, and her name is Tracy. So we quickly figured out we need to get married. And it was just one of those things that just really felt very right about everything. And
how long did y'all go out?
We started seeing each other, I guess, in like August, September of that year. I'll be honest with you. I before it got even a month in, I was like, I just didn't want to do the whole dating thing. I didn't want to. I just said, look, if you're thinking like I'm thinking that we should be thinking about marriage, and she was too. And so we just started, I pretty much was engaged within 2 months, and then we were married by the next April's when we set for our wedding date.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah.
When you know, you know.
Yeah. Todd came down, John Hensley came down, and several, Mike Peter. I think 2 people don't know him, but he went to Call High, and I didn't even know him till we got to he went to Oklahoma Baptist, and then we became like best buds at Oklahoma Baptist together. And so
Who's this? Mike Peter?
Mike Peter, yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I reached out to him the other day based on your recommendation,
good.
And he sent back some information.
Good. Yeah, I love him. So so we got married, and then really we were at several. I stayed in minister of music and youth. I was always music and youth. Small churches is what that means.
Yeah.
And but I love the youth ministry. So I loved doing student ministry and stuff. So I didn't want to just do music. So I just really worked for me as far as finding a way to work with people. So I did that for a long time. And then we had, over the years, we had 4 kids there. First was born in Alabama. Second, then we moved up to Arkansas, got a church in Arkansas, Conway, and we're there for 6 years. Benton, Arkansas for another 4 years. We had 3 more kids during that time. Our child number 3, is Emily. When she was 1 year of age, she was diagnosed with leukemia. And so that was a pretty traumatic event for us. So we basically, she's pretty much in the hospital for 6 months and went through a bone marrow transplant. And
at 1 year old?
At age 1, yeah. Right on her first birthday, she got chemotherapy. So it was like, it's not right, but I tell you what, she's alive and well today.
That's great.
25 or something like that now. And she was the first bone marrow transplant, not bone marrow, cord blood transplant at Children's Hospital in Wisconsin. So it was just a real journey for us. Got through that with her.
How long did that take from the time you found out to the time that she got cleared?
I mean, we found out like at the end of July. She got her first chemotherapy the next week. So, I mean, they right away chemotherapy, and they said that they were going to give her. They were losing all. We found out later they were losing all the kids like her, every one of them. So, because we went back and looked at the statistics, it was like, whoa, that's bad, So they started her. They said the doctor explained it. He said, we're going to give her both barrels of the shotgun is the best way to say it. He said, we're going to give her basically chemotherapy for adults. And then we're going to, she's on a brand new protocol they'd never done with anyone before. Then they were going to give her a bone marrow transplant as well. And then she matched for a cord blood, which they'd never tried before. It was a new thing. So she ended up being, when she went to do the bone marrow transplant, they ended up using cord blood. And it was a lot easier, I think, on her. When we saw kids doing the bone marrow transplant, we're just like, oh, it's as dangerous as anything, And, but the cord blood transplant was a lot milder, I think, on her. At least her body received everything fine. And so, and after that, it was done. She had radiation and stuff too. So she's a little shorter than most. I guess she had to go through all the growth hormones and stuff as well because it affected that. Right. But she's fine and alive and well, she's Okay, so following all that, we were in Benton. My son number 4, or child number 4, was born, Josh, and he was actually a twin, I should say, but his sister, we lost his sister in utero. So, that went through that too. Then after that, I was working at serving in Benton as music and youth minister. And over the years, I'd felt, but I kind of wondered, shall we say, about being a missionary, and if that's something that I didn't want to call myself to the mission field, you know what I'm saying? So I was pretty and like, God, you're going to have to show me what you want, if that's what you want me to do. And anyway, it just worked out. Let's just make it short. Felt like that's what I needed to do. And where was Southern Baptist, which sends out big it's a very large mission organization. So called them, and they basically said, we need to get, I was 38 at the time. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they said, we need to get you on the field quickly, like within the year. So they kind of put us on a fast track to get to the mission field.
Why did they want you to go out so fast?
Because our oldest son was 12, and they don't like sending out missionaries with kids in their teens. It becomes very difficult for teenagers to really transition. They're leaving behind a lot more than younger kids. So it's easier for younger kids to make that transition and not, have problems later on. Right. And so it worked out fine. They got us to the field, and we went to Thailand, is where they gave us a bunch of different choices how that works, and then we just so this felt like that would need to be it. So, and everything really changed from there. But I must say that my wife and I really loved it. Just that was I liked. In high school, I don't think I hardly knew people, and I certainly wasn't the social butterfly, shall we say. But now I've as I grew older and became much more relational and just enjoy meeting people. And so this was just really good, because a good situation for me, and really enjoyed that type of ministry. Just walking through villages at times and talking to people you meet. They can meet new people every day, and everything. It was just a lot of fun. Very tropical climate. Just to give you an idea, we left here about this time, and it was in November, actually, late November in 2002, and I'd never been outside the country before. Flew in on a plane, arrived in Bangkok, Thailand at midnight, and got off the plane on the tarmac, and it was 90 degrees and humid, very, very humid. So we were just like, looking at each other like, when that blast of heat just hits you, you're thinking, what in the world have we got ourselves into?
So you were over there for 7 years?
Actually, 15 altogether.
15 years.
Well, there's every 3 to 4 years. About every 3 years for us, we would come home for 3 years over, then like 3 to 6 months home, and then you go back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and so that's kind of how they have it. They have a system that they work with that. So
what was your setup over there? Were you running a church, or were you
No, we were basically trying to start new churches in a sense. Basically, because it's a country where very, very few believers, very few Christians. Okay, so you're walking through a village, and there are no Christians in the village. It's all Buddhist, and so you are. It's introducing completely new ideas to them. It just takes time. And so you're just, and we would start basically a little Bible study is what we would do. with people who were interested, and then and do that for a while. And then if any of them said, yeah, they believe they want to follow Christ, then we would basically start a little house church. Is how that works. So, and just really enjoyed it. Very, very low key, very casual, and you know, and I like that. So, you know, no formality about it. You know, no rituals or stuff per se. You know, but
sounds like it was a good fit.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah. So
when I think of Thailand or Bangkok, I think of monkey temples and Indiana Jones and
well, I didn't see any of it. I know what you're talking about. It wasn't quite like that.
Idols and
idols. Yeah, definitely. I mean, every home has got like little spirit house in front of it and stuff like that. I remember our mission teams would come and they'd think those are bird houses. And like, oh, I want to get one of those cute little birdhouses. And I'm like, that's not a birdhouse. That's where they put the little offerings to the spirits, you know, and stuff. So really spiritism, this not so much a worship of spirits, but a fear of spirits is what predominates people's thinking. Yeah. So
was it the kids in was it the soccer team from Thailand that got lost in the caves?
Yes.
Is that where the okay?
Yeah, that's up near Chiang Mai. Yeah.
I saw a documentary on National Geographic about that the other night. It's pretty amazing.
That. Yeah. I've been in caves, so and these are not like well guided caves. So yeah, it can be very dangerous.
Did you ever feel like you might be in danger over there? Did you threatened or?
No, no. I've probably been in situations where I should have. We work with Buddhists for the first, would that be the first 8 years, and then we work with Muslims in South Thailand for the last 7 years. After that, and so we got to work with them, but the people overall are very hospitable. You know, nobody's out to get you. It's not like that, and people are. You know, they're open to listening to different ideas. You know, you're not, you know. So there's a few, every once in a while you'll run into somebody that's offended, but you would run into that here in the US too. So
right. So you came back to the US after 15 years?
Yeah, well, we came back for our regular stateside. We had, in our last term, we adopted twin boys, Asher and Benjamin. It was just an interesting situation. We had a mission team that was there with us, and we were actually doing this hospital connection thing. And we had met a lady who was pregnant with twins, and just in really bad straits. Our mission team helped her out. She needed to find a place to stay. They got a lot of supplies for her, got her set up and everything. And so they were asking us to follow up on her, make sure that everything goes well. So my wife was spending a lot of time with her, making sure that the twins were born, and everything went well and set up and all that. And she was estranged from her family, is why she was in such desperate straits. She had no family anywhere near her. In North Thailand, I think is where they were. Well, Central Thailand, which was still 15 hours away by car, where her mother was, and so had no one around to give her any help. And so we were just kind of stepping in and helping out what we could. And through the process, my wife was in the hospital when the boys were born. Well, not right when they were born, but like when they were still in the hospital and they were, small. And then we would check in on her every once in a while. I know we had the boys at our house because she had to have surgeries. We watched the boys for a few days and different things like that. Had a good connection with the twins, and as babies. And then right before their second birthday, she was killed in an automobile accident.
No, man.
And the boys were going to be sent into a home. There was just and we were just like, oh, that's not good. And we had a connection with them. We're like, we would like to adopt, and so it just all worked out. It really all came together. It took some time. like 3.5 years before it was actually complete. But they were in our home right from the beginning. They let us
Oh,
stay.
that's good.
Well, yeah. So they were in our home. We just had, but we couldn't leave the country until the adoption was complete. So our last term was like a full 5 years. And when we came back, we were like, well, we got a whole year of stateside saved up. So we were going to stay the whole year. And then during that time, that was in 2017, we came back and stayed the whole year. And toward the end of that year, some of our other children, some other things were going on, and we we're just like, we didn't feel good about leaving with the situation like it was. So we said, we need to stay. And also the boys are still going through citizenship process, and that was dragging out. And so we decided we needed to stay. So we took a leave of absence from the International Mission Board, and which they allow you to do that for 2 years. And then, so we did that. And then after, and that's why I started working at JB Hunt. I tried to find another ministry position, didn't materialize, and I didn't really know what I needed to be doing as far as that goes. But once we're on a leave of absence, we had to find other income. And so I just applied for a job at JB Hunt and got on there. And then this ministry opened up so I could, as a pastor at a small church there in Huntsville, and started doing that. And we love that. That's actually working out quite well. And we feel like, as far as we can tell, the Lord wants us just to stay put. And so we're here, and it's going well.
That's great. That's wow, quite a
years.
story. There you go. What was life like for you growing up in Bartlesville? Are you from Bartlesville, or?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Well, since I was like in 3rd or 4th grade, something like that. My mom's family was from Bartlesville. Yeah, well, for me, my mom was raised, I had 3 brothers, and my mom raised all of us all because she and my dad divorced when I was in about 3rd or 4th grade. And then we moved back to Bartlesville. And so I guess like a lot of the kids you've talked to, I went to First Baptist and connected there, met Todd and John and Jason and a bunch of others as well. And I was thinking of Diane Haas. I was trying to think of people. I got to find my yearbook so I can go through all that again. But yeah, so I had really enjoyed that. And
Mike Wesson.
Yes, yeah. I didn't know if I didn't know who you would know from Sinner, because he went to Sinner.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike Wesson, absolutely. Oh, he is kind of my best friend certainly for my teen years, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Mike and I always hung out. And then, but Todd, you know, was best man at my wedding. Yeah, definitely. And so I had some really good close friends. I'll tell you what, later on looking back, it was their parents. You know, I grew up without a dad in the home, but their parents had a huge impact on me, my life. You know, I'm like, you know, if I was going to credit anybody, I'd say, wow. I was thinking of who else, and I was thinking like, I think Lloyd Hantz was Diane Hantz's dad, and he was like in my scout troop, right, which had a huge impact on me.
Troop, do you remember the number? Troop
11.
Troop 11, yeah.
Troop 11.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of us were in that. So that was a big connection thing. But yeah, but I look back and I was in their homes and stuff, and I was like, you know, it's like God just gave me people to look up to help me and guide me along the way. And so I feel very fortunate, very grateful, you know, for having that.
Where did you guys live? Downtown?
Yeah, downtown. Yeah, not too. If you go down Shawnee Avenue, just keep on going straight to the downtown area. But you know, it's not quite in downtown, but
right.
It's off of Seneca. Seneca was our street.
Okay.
So you know, you have Cherokee, and I think it's 4 blocks from Cherokee.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, down in that area. So. my mom worked as a lab technician at the hospital, King Phillips. So yeah. But no, I had a good childhood. I enjoyed it. So
Do you still stay in touch with your friends from high school?
I'm to some extent, I'm horrible. as much as I love my friends, I'm like, I should do better. I don't do Facebook. My wife is the Facebook guardian or first person, right? So I just let her. She'll tell me if anything important happens, and I just have not done that. And
well, that's how I found you. Was I saw Keith Richards on Facebook, Keith and Tracy Richards.
Yeah,
I reached out to you on Facebook, and then I got this message from your wife, Tracy, saying, "Hey, Keith's not on Facebook, but I'll pass along the information."
Yeah.
And then pretty soon here it goes, and that was great. Glad it worked out.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's it. But yeah, no, I keep them. I feel like I'm like once a year I'll touch base with Todd or Johnny or somebody, That's really horrible about it. So overall, but
so what are you going to do to improve on that, Keith?
Yeah, repent. I tell them I'm sorry every time we contact each other. I'm sorry I haven't called you in so long.
Yeah. I mean, it does make, I know what you were saying, and it makes me want to change that personally.
Yeah.
I want to stay more in touch with high school friends and people that I've said this before, and I feel like I'm repeating myself each episode, but it makes me, you think back over 39 years and I'm just now reconnecting with everybody. And I'm thinking we could have been friends, or, we're friends. You and I were friends because we were friends then, but 39 years and not saying or doing anything, I feel kind of,
could have done something.
I'm going to try to, a Christmas card or something.
Right.
So I'm trying to change that. So don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if you get a Christmas card or something from me.
Sounds good. So
who was, what teacher do you think had the most impact on you?
Yeah, I've thought about this. I've heard that question a couple times. So, I mean, I think of a few. One that I don't know who I know. A couple people mentioned Mr. Simmons, and I wouldn't say personally, but I would say, I did learn a lot in there, and it certainly helped me later on in college, writing the papers and stuff. Mm-hmm. That's what I really remember was that it did help me, in writing papers, although I did not necessarily make good grades, in it. So, I remember getting like a D or something because I had a semicolon in the wrong place.
Oops.
That would have been a B. Now it's a C.
Yeah.
Okay. But another one I remember is Mr. Love. Taught history government, really with the class that I had him for that I recall, and I because I remember he was going through and teaching about different types of governments, and he was teaching about communism, and I remember he led us on. I don't know if you remember this, but he led us on for days thinking that we're like, is he communist?
I know, that's what I thought. Yeah.
You remember?
Yeah.
You remember that?
I was real confused there for a while.
Goes, I was so confused. And then he comes in one day and he goes, now today I'm going to tell you why communism will not work. And I was like, what? We were all really worried, and everything. And then so it's just too wild, but it's a great lesson, So that was pretty cool. I remember that. And
you're the first person I've talked to that remembers that incident, because I don't remember the incident exactly, but I do remember walking away thinking, is he for this? Are we supposed to be okay with this?
Because I remember, I was like, what's going on here, And then, of course, I was real involved with choir with some of the other ones there. So, anyways.
Well, you want to take a break?
Sure.
All right. Let's take a break. We'll be back with more from Keith Richards right after this.
Thank you for listening to the last of the Call High Wildcats 1982 podcast, and we'll be right back after this.
Pops Daylight Donuts, man, they've got the best tasting donuts, sausage wraps, pastries in Northeast Oklahoma. And also, if you'll tell the staff there, hey, Scott Townsend said to give me a large spicy pig, they'll give you a free large spicy sausage wrap. But you have to tell them Scott Townsend sent you. So tell them, hey, Scott Townsend told me to tell you to give me a large spicy pig. So there's the offer. There's the call to action. So go to Pop's Daylight Donuts. Say hi to Mark for me. And go to Pop's Daylight Donuts and get you some. If you've enjoyed this podcast in 2021, you have my patrons to thank for that. A bunch of Wildcats got together and created a GoFundMe account to help in the production of this podcast. So with that in mind, I've started a Patreon page so that listeners can help support the last of the Call High Wildcats 1982 podcast on a month-to-month basis. So please check out my Patreon page, patreon.com/Wildcats1982. And now back to the show.
To me, it's just my family, and it's not. There's things that I love. Sure, I love the ministry that God gave us and different things like that. But I love my wife and my kids, and to me, that's where success lies. Is that's where I'm happy, having a good relationship with the Lord, and then having wife and kids and a loving relationship with them and keeping that going, and I'm good. So
any regrets from high school, or when you look back on high school, is there any?
That's what we already talked about, that I'm doing horrible as far as keeping up with everybody. is as I always say, that is the biggest thing for me. It's like I think I was tended to isolate myself in high school to just a few friends that it's like I had a few friends and I was close to them, but others didn't really hang out or talk to with much, and kind of wish I'd done more.
I mean, we were friends.
Yeah.
Not great friends, but I mean,
right, exactly. And I was friends with a lot of people, like on a very kind of a casual relationship, and I guess that's this is the way it is,
Mm-hmm.
So.
I remember there was one birthday party of yours, with was it Mike Wesson? And you were there, and Todd maybe. And it was we spent the night over at Mike's house, Mike Wesson. I think it was Mike's house, or maybe it was I don't know. I can't remember. Anyway,
if it was Mike's, did we play like not board games, but man, because I remember Mike's, he would have. I don't know. I'd go there, spend the night at his house, and we'd be playing. I don't remember. Those old like those army games where you set up different troops and stuff.
Oh yeah. Kind of simulation games.
Simulation games, yeah. We used to try different things like that and stuff.
Yeah.
So a lot of fun.
I never figured all that out, so I never.
No, it was a little bit over. I think none of us were really good at it, but it gave us something. Our goal was to stay up all night, right? So
that was the only goal.
Something to do for the next 8 hours. So,
as and you've probably heard this question too, as you look back on, you see your 18-year-old self walking across the graduation platform. Knowing what you know now, what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Yeah. I actually think of scripture, trust in the Lord with all of your heart, lean not on your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. My path was not a straight path. I mean, I went kind of all over the place, but I think of it. Another way to say that is trust in the Lord and follow the green lights he gives you, and just go in the directions he gives you to go, and it'll be good. So yeah.
That's good. Yeah. Well, any you got all the Wildcats listening to you. Now's your chance to talk to them. And what do you want to tell them? Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I hadn't thought about that one. But no, well, I miss everybody for one thing. I've not had a chance to do the reunions, as such. I think I was always either out of state or even out of the country. But I've really enjoyed listening to these podcasts and catching up with people. And just think a lot of everybody. And
so you can go to the 40th next year.
Yeah, I'm going to try to do that. So yeah. Yeah,
Now
my
that
wife was like, but before this, my wife was like, you don't need to go to a reunion. If we go to a reunion, you won't know anybody. I was like, well, she'll be going, who's that? Like, I don't know, So this is really good because it's really helping me. Like, now I'm going to know people now. So it's good. Yeah.
All right. So all you Wildcats watching or listening to this, reach out and give him, what's your email address?
Hope, HOPE, the number 4. I actually still use Thailand, THAILAND at gmail.com. Yeah.
So reach out to Keith, say hi, just, no biggie, just say hi, help Keith get back into the swing of things here. And Keith,
Right.
and you promise that you'll respond back to him. So yeah.
I'm better with emails. Yeah. I will respond to an email. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So.
And and if they want your address for a Christmas card or something, they can get in touch with you and find out.
I can do that. Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Oh, okay. Well, Keith, I really appreciate it. It was great catching up, and let's not let it be so long till we talk again.
Yeah, we can do this every year.
Which is a lot better than what we've been doing.
All right. Thanks, Scott. Really
You
enjoy
bet.
it. Really good to see you, sir.
So for Keith Richards, this is Scott Townsend. Thanks for watching, listening to the Last of the Call High Wildcats 1982 podcast. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you later.
The Last of the Call High Wildcats 1982 podcast is a Dietzo Man production. Visit the Last of the Call High Wildcats 1982 YouTube channel, listen on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.